working. I took a day off, then I just can't figure it out. Is the sound working? I took a day. There it is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA, and we're going to be talking about lead generation today and how do you measure it and how do you make sure you're learning as you go. And I think it's going to be really good. But before we do, we want to talk about who are the chefs. And we're going to start with a throwback commercial from the 80s, I think. And here we go. Paging the field.
Hey, that's great. But who are the chefs?
Not going anywhere for a while?
Great googly moogly.
Grab a Snickers.
You spell it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here's the remake of it, which I kind of like the original one. This is only 15 seconds. We'll get this all done. Here we go. My wife wondered how they get the paint back off of the field. Don't know. Probably power wash.
Hey, that's great. But who are the chefs?
Rookie mistake?
Great googly moogly.
Great googly moogly.
Maybe you just need a Snickers.
Okay, the official chocolate sponsor of the NFL. There you go. And a lot of fun. Let's get over to the backstory here and see what we got going. Okay, so from Audrey Kemp, the drum, 1996, and they recreated the iconic 1996 spot. In that one, it was like not going anywhere for a while, have a snack, and that. But I think that the "Not Yourself" campaign was the best one. Of course, I think Betty White was the best one. You're not yourself when you're hungry. Not that this is necessarily the best snack, but if you're going into a diabetic coma, a Snickers bars will fix that. And well, almost anything else, a glass of orange juice. Okay, so hunger can turn even the best, most meticulous person into a hapless rookie. It turns out that they're going to also feature the Steelers' T.J. Watt. Did you see that interception this weekend? Oh my gosh! A former Bucky Badger and a Pewaukee, which is just next door to Heartland, where I am, resident. And that was so great. Also, I wanted to call out Taylor Swift has been attending. She's gone to 4 Chefs games, and they've won every game that she's attended. So I guess good for her. She's a good luck charm and seems like a lot of fun also. Anyway, now we'll get to the meat of this. It's about time. Hey, I've only gone 3 minutes. Could your KPIs actually be hurting your business? And I have something to say about this, but I wanted to wait and see what Jeff Tarrin had to say. This is published by LinkedIn, by Jeff on LinkedIn. 3 takeaways from this article. Setting KPIs that are overly dependent on conversion as a measure of success could be hurting your ability to target good prospects. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Lead gen programs are often wrongly faulted for flaws in the sales process or customer experience that turns off qualified leads. Really important concept to get it into your head. A lead generation process is a 2 or 3 or more step process, and you can't just look at the front lead source and end, right? You need to look at the process, and we're going to be talking about a specific way that you may not have heard, because I've heard it very few times in my entire 40-year career. And there are concrete steps you can take to improve campaign analysis that will lead to better leads over time. First of all, setting KPIs, which is key performance indicators. I'm not sure the article ever says that. It wasn't until I had a retail client back in about 7-8 years ago that I had heard the KPI term. But it's important. And we did all the match back for them on our on our catalog process. Okay, for a marketing initiative is an essential part of setting up a program. So I was on a call yesterday with Feroz at OnPoint. I learned how to pronounce it too, and it was about a lead generation program. And so this will have some relevance. And I'm getting dragged back into lead generation, which I did a lot of back at the beginning of my career before I really pivoted into catalogs because they had lots of data and it was really great for modeling. But lead generation is, of course, crucial to a lot of businesses. So lately it seems there's no such thing as a lead gen program. The terms response and conversion are being used interchangeably. And of course, response generally means anything that happened that you can get somebody to do, right? Click or give you their email or anything. Conversion normally to me means make a sale. And maybe we should say that. So channels and tactics used to be credited for bringing in the leads, now are judged as if they're the bottom of the funnel in conversion programs. And it may hurt your prospecting efforts, right? Because there's so many ways to look at even sales. What's the average order per? We always, even when it is conversion, when it is an order, you still have to look at the profitability of the order and other things. There's always a handful of things. Boiling it down to one thing is always a mistake, I think, because one thing overemphasizes one thing over another. Okay, and oftentimes also the lead generation program is held responsible for things that there's no control over, which is why at least you get to settle this up front. Weak conversion is often due to flaws in the sales funnel, poor landing pages, unprepared salespeople, broken promises, and a host of other scenarios. Right, exactly. Okay, so number one, your funnel needs to accommodate the dynamics of DM response. Okay, so how are you moving people from the physical? If you're doing direct mail, and that's what Jeff is talking about when he talks about DM, you're going from the physical to the digital generally. Okay, so QRs and vanity URLs or pearls can help reduce that friction. Pearl, of course, is a filled in, it's tailored to that particular household. And so you can put in the name and address and maybe past purchases and other things. It becomes a highly, highly personalized thing, which is actually very, very helpful. If you're trying to, too often I click a QR and I end up on a form to be filled out, remembering that a QR is pretty much only accessible with a cell phone. And so you're taking me from the physical world of the postcard or the mailer, and you're dropping me into a digital world where I'm forced to put that thing on, to put the information in with my thumb or something like that. Very bad. I pretty much never do that. I'm never willing to fill out forms on my cell phone. Okay, it's just terrible. So be sure to always, if you're including a QR, also include the URL and hopefully make it short and easy to put in on a computer. Okay, don't send prospects to a landing page that was designed for a different channel and out of context with the DM. Too often the QRs just go to the home page with no consideration of the offer, right? Or sometimes the client doesn't want to put it on the offer page. They'll put it on they'll put the tracking code on the home page, and so so the direct mail doesn't get credit for taking you to their site, even though it did take you to their site. And I've seen that. Response analysis timeframes, right? You can't just look at the today and tomorrow responses in direct mail because it won't get there for 2 more weeks. And so you have to be careful that you're not thinking about digital tracking when you're setting up a direct mail program. Okay, are you attributing response fairly to the mailings? Often doesn't happen, right? Oftentimes, especially if you're trying to sell a new product to an existing set of customers, those customers have visited your website, so they have a first-party cookie on their computer if they dial in if they type in the code or even on their phone. And so too often those get attributed to to Google search, which is maybe their original tracking cookie, or they get attributed to something else, some other digital campaign, when in reality, and this even happens when they go and then they leave and then they come back again. Now they've got that first party cookie, and so we forget that it was the mailer that triggered that response. So always try to get matchback included, because you have the physical address, and if they go down the funnel far enough, you're going to get their address again, and you can match that back to the original mailer, the original mailing list, which is not so easy to do in digital. Okay. And many people do type the company URL or the email. So pitfall number 2 is a narrow conversion-only KPI focus compromises the prospect targeting strategies. So customer files may not be large enough or diverse enough to result in a high-performing DM prospect model. So I was talking with the blood center in Kansas City, and I was asking them about their data, and they said, well, our number one contributors are wealthy suburban women, which is fine. Maybe that's true. Didn't sound right to me, because you could give blood, anybody can give blood, right? If you prick us, do we not bleed? Right? But so I asked them about their prior advertising campaigns, and they had basically listened to their board of directors, which was made up by wealthy suburban women. And the wealthy suburban women wanted to see the blood center ads because they were doing this charity work. They wanted to see the ads in the suburban real estate magazines, the glossy, beautiful magazines. And so that's where they generated all their leads from, which means they hadn't really prospected broadly. They'd been very narrow in their approach, which means that all of their contributors were going to be, or likely to be, wealthy suburban women. So there's a self-fulfilling prophecy that happens based on your historical customer persona. And you need to remember that when, especially if you're going after a new market or you're using direct mail for the first time. As Jeff says, if your business is new to DM, then we're building a DM prospecting model that's based on digital responders who became customers, which could be very different from potential DM responders, right? Prospect data based on a customer file implicitly sets an expectation among managers that KPI should be the final sale. May or may not be. You probably could talk them out of that. Again, that's asking a lot from a piece of mail. Well, most of my career, what we were mailing, we were hoping for an order. We didn't care that much about a lead. That's the catalog industry. So but that's a good piece of mail, and it's designed. People know when they get it that this is stuff you can buy, and they treat it accordingly. Direct mail responders are easy to track because address-based data is extremely accurate, but don't wait until the final step in a sale to track and report on DM prospect results. So you can do matchback, and you can do matchback, or you can do retracking address affixation. You can affix the address to an incoming lead to your website, even if they don't fill anything out. And you don't need to necessarily mail it, but you could track it back to the original mailing list. Makes an excellent point that Jeff makes. And some of the tracking software, I'm not sure. I know that Old Country Marketing uses Direct Mail 2.0, which I think both are supporters of the WDMA, and I think can give you a pixel to drop on your website to generate that tracking or that lead address. So that's a possibility. I'm not sure. OnPoint uses David Rosenthal's Mind Burner. No, it's not right. Mind Fire. Somebody's tagging me here. I got to turn off those. It's my kids. So prospecting by definition is a top of the funnel exercise, right? And so what response behavior indicates a quality lead? Now we're going to move over to that. Okay, analyzing and qualifying and profiling qualified leads from a direct mail program to help fine-tune your insights. Consider KPIs for each stage of the funnel. Now let's go over to this. This is a little diagram I just whipped up before I got here, and so it's going to take into account lead source, lead qualification, where we have an internal telemarketing team, and lead conversion, where we have some kind of more qualified sales team. Could be outside sales, could be inside sales, could be a lot of things. But anyway, so first thing we look at it when a lead comes in is we say, well, what's the source? Now that source could mean a split test in offers, or it could mean a different list. So for example, yesterday we were talking about previous leads that were a little bit older. Maybe we could mail some of those. We were talking about customers that had bought one other product, but not the product we were emphasizing, and we could mail some of those. And so the lead source is something you really always want to keep track of. And a lot of times the top of the funnel, you're looking at cost per lead. So what kind of response rate did you get, and what did it cost you? Because some leads are much more expensive. We used to advertise in magazines, and back when they were a thing. And I remember one time we used the Wall Street Journal, and we were also using card decks, which were dirt cheap. And the Wall Street Journal was 100 times higher in cost per lead than the card decks. And the funny part was that they weren't any better quality either on lead readiness or on lead conversion. So, sometimes you can look at your lead source, you can do digital compared to direct mail, and you can figure this out, okay, lead source. So keep track of that lead source, and if you don't know how, give me a call. Lead qualification. Then what we would do is we would take those leads and we would keep track of the source, and we would keep track of the money, and we would send them to our telesales people, our outbound lead qualifiers, and they would give them a call. You can still do that. People still do answer the phone occasionally. But, don't do it with a computer, because when I hear that silence for a couple of seconds, I immediately hang up. Sorry. Say hello. Say that you're a person. Don't be too salesy about it either. Take your time. People will trust you more. Anyway, so what we do is we'd grade the leads. The C's were people that weren't really at all interested, and sometimes they were what we'd call them tire kickers or high school kids looking for information that they would send away for and get themselves on mailing lists. So the C's were we immediately killed. The B's we would follow up again at a later date without any outside sales connection at all. We would just hold these, and they would be called again later. Oftentimes you'd ask the prospect, would you like us to call you again in a couple of months? And they'd say yes. Okay, that's the B's. And they would recycle through this process until they became an A, and an A then went down into the lead conversion process, which was this higher level salespeople. Okay, and one of the things that was really important here was that every telesales person got some sampling of all of these qualities of leads, okay? And that each telesales person got a variety of quality. And the reason for that is because when they graded them, we needed not just one person. So oftentimes people structure this and they get a direct connection with their person, maybe with their region where this exists. But we would undo that. We would make sure that each qualifier had a variety of leads, and that each of these leads went to a variety of salespeople also down here. Okay, so that if some qualifiers would hold these leads too long, they were ready to talk, but they weren't sent to the salespeople. Okay, because they wanted to make double sure that this person was basically already sold, and so they would hold on to they would wait till the A's were like, please let me talk to somebody I can order from. Others would send too many down, And the salespeople would go talk to them and schedule a sales call, or actually the qualifier would schedule a sales call, and the salesperson could move it. But they would go visit, and they would say, well, no, I wasn't ready to make a decision. And so then we could coach the qualifiers on their leads and how they worked. And we could also see a variety of scoring methods for each lead source and see what the total return on investment was down at the bottom. And that's how you do it in direct marketing. That's the direct marketing approach to lead qualification systems. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends